Sudan is facing one of the worst humanitarian catastrophes of the 21st century. And yet, for much of the world, it is barely a headline. To understand how Sudan reached this point, you have to go back decades. Since gaining independence in 1956, Sudan has been plagued by cycles of military rule, fragile civilian governments, and internal conflict. Power has long been in the hands of armed elites, while vast regions of the country were neglected, exploited, or violently suppressed. These unresolved tensions laid the groundwork for today's collapse. In April 2023, those tensions exploded. A fragile political transition meant to move Sudan from military rule towards civilian democracy after the fall of longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir in 2019, completely unraveled. Two men who once ruled together turned their weapons on each other. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, head of the Sudanese armed forces, and General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemeti, leader of the Rapid Support Forces, launched a brutal fight for control of the state. What followed was not a conventional war. It was urban warfare inside cities packed with civilians. Khartoum, a city of more than 5 million people, became a battlefield overnight. Fighter jets bombed residential neighborhoods. Heavy artillery was fired into apartment blocks. Snipers positioned themselves near hospitals, markets, and schools. According to Doctors Without Borders, medical facilities were repeatedly attacked, looted, or forced to shut down, leaving millions without access to health care. As the fighting spread, Darfur once again became a killing ground. Satellite imagery reviewed by Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International shows entire villages burned to the ground. Mass graves have been identified near El Geneina. Survivors report ethnic targeting, summary executions, and systematic sexual violence, echoes of the genocide that shocked the world 2 decades earlier. The United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has warned that some actions may amount to crimes against humanity. According to the United Nations, more than 8 million people have been forced from their homes, including over 2 million refugees who fled into Chad, South Sudan, Egypt, and Ethiopia. The World Food Program estimates that over 18 million people are facing acute hunger, with famine conditions emerging in multiple regions. Children are dying not only from violence, but from malnutrition and preventable diseases as health systems collapse. Yet this war is not only about power, it is about money. Sudan is one of Africa's largest gold producers, and gold has become the lifeline of the conflict. Investigations by Reuters, The Guardian, and The New York Times have documented how gold mines, particularly those controlled by the Rapid Support Forces, generate enormous revenue. Much of this gold is allegedly smuggled out of the country through informal networks, bypassing state oversight and flowing into international markets. These profits buy weapons, recruit fighters, and prolong the war. Foreign actors also play a role. Analysts from organizations like the International Crisis Group and Chatham House point to regional powers quietly backing different factions to protect strategic interests, access to resources, trade routes, and influence along the Red Sea. While global powers publicly call for peace, arms continue to circulate, and diplomatic pressure remains weak. Meanwhile, civilians are trapped in the middle. In besieged neighborhoods, families survive by drinking contaminated water and eating 1 meal a day, if they are lucky. Women report widespread sexual violence, often used as a weapon of terror. Children are pulled out of school, some forcibly recruited by armed groups. Aid agencies warn that Sudan is becoming inaccessible as convoys are blocked, looted, or attacked. And still, the world looks away. Compared to other global conflicts, Sudan receives a fraction of the media coverage and international funding. The UN humanitarian appeal for Sudan remains severely underfunded, despite being one of the largest relief operations in the world. Ceasefires are announced, celebrated, and then broken within hours. Accountability is discussed but rarely enforced. This silence is not neutral. Without attention, there is no sustained pressure on warlords. Without pressure, atrocities continue. And without urgent global action, Sudan risks sliding into permanent fragmentation, a collapsed state ruled by militias, where violence becomes the norm rather than the exception. But Sudan is not just a story of suffering. It is a story of ordinary people resisting erasure. Doctors operating without anesthesia, volunteers running underground food networks, journalists risking their lives to document the truth. It is a reminder that behind every statistic is a human life, and behind every ignored crisis is a choice. The question is no longer what is happening in Sudan. The question is, why does the world keep choosing not to see it?